So today I've got the Wolf A1 up here, and I want to go through some of the sight options for it. Now, a lot of people right off the bat, they'll take the roll pin out of here, they'll slide that off the dovetail, and they'll throw a red dot on there. That saves them sight, or it saves them some weight, or they'll put a scope on there or whatever. Other guys will go with a carry handle, like a US carry handle, maybe like an A2, and it'll have elevation adjustment, and that works just fine for some people. Now, the problems I ran into is I didn't want to carry a handle. It was heavy, and I didn't really want to go with an optic. I just wanted some good old iron sights and maybe throw on, one of those every now and again. So I put a Maytech on there, and I went to adjust the elevation accordingly, right? So I got a 5-prong sight tool. It's 5 on one side, 4 on the other, because it has the 5 prongs. Now, when we unscrewed that, what I found is that the sight post had actually been engaging that roll pin down there, and it was the only thing that was holding the sight block tight. So I adjusted the elevation, and the sight block there got loose. Now, there's a way to fix that I went through in another one of my videos. Wolf instructed me to take a punch and ever so slightly tap those so that it closed the gap and tightened up. That causes another issue, because by tightening that up and getting rid of the gap, all of a sudden it lowers that sight block even more. So it was already too low to begin with, so they made these longer sight posts. Now it's lower yet because we got rid of that gap because the machining tolerances were off. So by the time you install your sight post that you got from Wolf, it was so high up that the top of the post was pretty much level with the wings. Now that causes another issue, because your eye naturally, when you look through a sight such as this, you got your peep hole right here, it wants to center that picture there. So naturally your eye centers either the sight post or it centers these wings. So you've got a pretty decent chance when you look through your sights of accidentally centering the wings if you're trying to shoot quickly instead of centering that sight post. So not exactly optimum, you know what I'm saying? So the solution that I found ended up being, I ordered a 5-prong M16 sight post from Numerc Gun Parts. Now that's like gunparts.com. DPMS makes these. They're like $3, maybe $4, and that gets rid of the excess height problem caused by these pins if you're going to use a T91 rear sight. Now you can see that's a huge difference there. It's like maybe 3/16 of an inch or something like that. Pretty big difference. So I got that sight post, and I went with a T91 simple rear sight. Now they have the carry handle as well. Now what that did is it fixed my heights. It made it just like the original T91, and now when I look through my peep sight, it's perfect. It centers not only the top of the post, but it centers these wings as well. So if I want to shoot something quickly, it's a lot easier. Now these sights really aren't that expensive depending on where you buy them, and it was definitely worth it. There was a lot of complaints with like the Magpul M-Bus and my Maytech and whatnot, and I'm sure it was all due to that. It had the wobbly block, they closed the gap, and they took something that was already too low and made it lower. And the best solution, I believe, is this lower rear sight, which is the original T91 simple sight. And this is lighter than the carry handle. The carry handle looks cool, don't get me wrong, but that was my solution. Now another problem that I ran into with these sight blocks, as you can see, I got a few of these things, and there's a reason for that. The holes weren't always centered, so the hole could be drilled off to the side like that, and so my sight post naturally wasn't centered. or the hole was canted, it wasn't drilled straight. So the sight post would go off like that. I would adjust the elevation, and at the same time the windage would change because the sight post was canted. Now, a good way to check that is if you have an original M16 cleaning rod or an original T91 cleaning rod. I believe you could buy those off T91tactical.com. There's a web store there that sells T91 parts. Those screw directly into where the sight post would go, and so that rod will show you if it's canted or, you know, if it's off center. You can measure side to side with like a micrometer. Now this is another method. I've got a 27 gauge wire, or number 27 wire gauge drill bit, and it's kind of a snug fit, but I can force it into there without screwing up the threads too bad. I'm being pretty careful here. And I can measure side to side, or I can see the cant. You know, I can put this on a perfectly level surface and put a level on there if I want and see if it's plumb. So there's another way of checking that. Now, another optic question you might have is, will these co-witness? And the answer is yes. This is just a cheapo sight mark, as you can see. Get it on there, I'll show you. You know, and there's enough adjustment in most red dots to where they work just fine, and this one does. I'm totally content with this setup. Now, it's not perfect to where the dot's going to be exactly on the sight post like if you were doing it on like an AR-15, but you know, you can look through either sight and it'll work, even though that they don't line up perfectly. Like on my AR-15, the dot is exactly where my sight post is, and this one, the dot is like right above the sight post. But if I'm looking for a dot, I'm not looking at the sight post anyway, so I can see them both at the same time. If my battery fails, I can use those sights, so no big deal. So I hope this video helps you guys out figuring out your sight issues. Like I said, you could always just put an optic on there and get rid of this excess weight, but I really wanted iron sights, so that's what ended up happening. And hopefully this helps you guys save time. I ended up sending mine to Wolf to get this fixed in the end, so you might have to use our warranty service. It's great, by the way, so don't be afraid to do that. All right, well, have a good day and happy shooting.